here to talk about my kind of experience the last number of years with different organizations around traditional working, moving from traditional working into more kind of flexible working, agile working as it's known today. So I guess my Agile Beginnings, like anybody that kind of works in FM, they normally fall into the industry. They don't really start out to choose a career in FM. I started out with a degree in marketing, decided it wasn't for me, jumped ship to Melbourne. Ended up with Accenture, again, consulting organization, 10,000 staff across Australia. The office I was based in Melbourne, I got an office kind of operations role there. So my first day in the business, I was shown to a desk. I left my notebook there. I was given a laptop. I was told to use the Kensington cable. I left that evening, came in the next day. Everything was gone. My desk was completely clear. Then the team on site told me that we hot desk, we're an agile environment. I'd never heard of the concept before. It was completely new to me. I'm Irish. We're very all about ownership on our property. You can't take away our space. We have a housing crisis in Dublin at the minute. Loads of apartments, but nobody wants to live in apartments because that's not the way we were brought up. That's not our culture. But we're slowly trying to change that, and I've been kind of seeing that shift the last number of years in both organizations I've been in before and to where I am today in Paddy Power Betfair. Going back to Melbourne, that was 10 years ago at this stage. Again, an agile environment, it probably early days of agile and flexible working, it gives staff different options of working. Even the kind of exco rooms were agile, so they swapped rooms different day depending whether they're on site. The facilities team on site had to change their operational support in order to provide that service as well. There was a check-in facilities for desks, which I learned very fast in my second day on the job, that I had to check in and actually book a space or I was going to be sitting out in the corridor. So that was quite a heavy introduction to, I guess, flexible working and agile for me in Australia over 9 years ago. In the meantime, I guess I came back to Dublin when all my money ran out in Australia, and I realized I couldn't leave the summer beach life for too long. I was very lucky to get a role with Google, and that was with R-Mark in Workspace operations. Everybody was talking about Google and tech industry at the time as the places you wanted to work because the offices were so cool. People still talk that way today. By no means did the office provide the environment for people to, I guess, to get their daily job done. There was a lot of gimmicks to it. There was different types of meeting rooms, different themes. My first initial experience in Google, I was on a floor which was, it was Turkish theme. If you walk back into that floor today, you wouldn't want to work in it. It just doesn't suit the environment or suit the kind of work that you want to get done. I guess I call this here traditional disruption, whereby Google and Facebook created these environments that want to disrupt the traditional, give people ways of working in which they could bump into colleagues. Somebody mentioned earlier about serendipitous collisions, which is something that I'll talk about later on in our new kind of building layout. On from Google, I moved to Facebook. Again, very much traditional disruption, whereby different ways of working, different size meeting rooms, different desk layouts, not so much themes, but giving staff and teams the opportunity to kind of create their own neighborhood or environment that suited their roles. None of these buildings as well were agile. Everybody had their own desk. Again, if you walked around any of those offices on any given day, you'd see a lot of empty desks. People moved a lot, people traveled a lot to other offices, so there was a lot of empty space. But Facebook and Google's strategy at the time was kind of divide and conquer, get more office space. They had heavy budgets. It was brilliant. If you had a problem, if somebody wanted something ridiculous, you could throw money at it to make the problem go away. Unfortunately, for a lot of us in organizations, we haven't got those huge budgets to just go out and find a new office space. We have to be smarter about how we work, and we really have to develop a strategy that both suits us as a business and also our budgets also. Present day, so I'm currently working for Paddy Power Betfair. When I first did my interview, I walked into this space and I thought I was walking back to the dark ages. I came from Facebook, Google, all my friends, colleagues were like, are you mental? It's not the same type of workspace. There was no free food. The environment was quite old and dated. It was just after a merger as well. So Paddy Power, originally an Irish business, and Betfair, originally UK and Europe. The merger happened. There was a clash of cultures. Paddy Power's culture was very different to Betfair's. The working environments were also very different. They merged everybody into one office space. The company at the time They were a Romanian contractor that did the fit out. They did the same fit out in all our offices across Europe. What suited one office, they felt would suit the rest. And you walked into this environment that just didn't really stand out. When I walked in my first time for the interview, it didn't hit me straight away that this was a place I wanted to work. I walked into the meeting room, there was movie posters on one wall, there was sports theme on another wall. Nothing really worked, nothing really kind of suited the environment, and nothing really told me anything about the office or who actually worked here and the type of people that worked here. So really, from 2013 to 2018, it's been very much a traditional working environment. Some people have sat in the same seat, the same desk for the last 7 or 8 years. There's one guy that has 50 Marvel characters at his desk. That was an interesting conversation to tell him that we were moving towards Agile. I don't think he understands it up until this point. He still sets up his characters every morning. So you're going to have those characters. You have to engage with those people as well. You have to show them the benefits of Agile working and really try and work and change in their mindset as well. So we came about doing some Agile testing in Dublin and London. And again, this took a lot of engagement with the business to make them understand. You people that were working from early days Paddy Power for maybe 20 years, they hadn't worked in a different working environment. They never actually had been out to look at a different office space to see how a different office could maybe suit their requirements or how they need to change their own requirements. So we slowly but surely rolled out some Agile testing models in both Dublin and London. We started on a small scale first, so we created maybe 250 kind of seated office spaces whereby we changed desk layouts, we added some different things like meeting booths. Feedback was always positive. We had to heavily engage with each teams, obviously, we weren't going to just roll out Agile working and say, this is what it is. You no longer have a desk. You're going to have to come in the morning and fight your colleagues for a desk. That's not the case. That's not the way you delivered. You have to engage with different teams, understand why they've worked the way they have for the last number of years, and really, are they open to change and what could make their environment better and enable them to, I guess, be more proactive in their environment as well. Fortunately, just after I joined as well, we got project approval in Dublin and both London to complete change of our working environments. So we got approval to refit our office spaces, completely redesign them. And this really was perfect timing because we had a heavy focus on the Agile model rollout throughout the business. Dublin is our first project whereby we are completely gutting our current building and moving it to shell and core. For that time period, we are moving everybody out of the office space into temporary swing space. When we come back into the new building in 2020, again, it will be 100% Agile. We've been spending the last couple of months creating these small Agile spaces, doing continuous engagement with the business, just to show them how Agile works and to subtly get them included. So phase 2, which is what we're currently in, is the big move, moving staff into this temporary location, a swing space. I'll go into more details in a couple of slides of what's involved in that. And then 2020 is really completely embracing an Agile culture for Paddy Power Betfair. This will be Dublin and London, but in our countries or offices where we have in like Cluj and Malta, we really want to have that environment across the board because we have quite a transient workforce. We all move across offices, so we want each of our staff to have the same experience when they go to other offices as well. So when we introduced, I guess, Agile working and subtly introduced, we did a lot of consultation with the business to get general feedback, and this is something we do regularly, is talk to people in the business, different teams, and to get their feedback on what works in the office and what doesn't. When we made some subtle changes, we brought in some new pods to the canteen, so people liked having a quiet space to take phone calls. People give a lot of negative feedback on, I guess, they felt a lot of the space was very much like silos, quite a linear layout for desks. People just wanted that quiet working booth to go take a phone call, get away from their desk so they're not going to get harassed by their colleagues on a daily basis. Again, our meeting rooms, we had varying size meeting rooms. We had 5-person, 10-person, 20 persons. Throughout the day, you'd walk by those rooms and you'd see a 2-person and a 20-person, and you'd see 10 people in a 5-person meeting room as well. So the meeting spaces just didn't suit teams' requirements, but that hadn't changed. Nobody questioned it for the last 8 years. Nobody said, can we do things differently? This wasn't an overnight change. We made subtle changes whereby brought in meeting pods, quiet pods. We changed desk furniture. which I'll talk about in detail as well. And slowly but surely, we got more positive feedback over time from different teams within the business. Again, you're always going to have challenges whereby people have been there so long. That's how they worked. You have to show them how it will benefit them first. You can't just make this change overnight. So I call this the dark ages. This is one of the areas which we kind of started working on back in the summer of 2018. So as you can see, quite linear desk layouts. The desks were huge. I don't know where they bought them. I don't think you can get them on the market anymore. Nobody wants them. We will be getting rid of 1,200 of them pretty soon. So if there's any takers, let me know after. Uninspiring breakout spaces. A breakout space shouldn't be a case of throwing, I guess, a couple of chairs in the corner where a team sits and saying, there's your breakout space. You can use that to get away from your desk. You need to give them options of working, or you need to add infrastructure to that breakout space to give them a different way of working as well. It's not just a couch in a corner and call it a breakout space. We have, and before I joined, when I walked around the space, we had 20 or 30 different breakout spaces that were just couches that nobody used. It was taking up real estate where we could have put extra facilities, extra desks. So there was really just no thought put into it before 2018. And again, I'd say the one-size-fits-all meeting rooms. This goes back to a lot on etiquette and not just the rooms that are in the space. You really need your staff and employees on site to practice good etiquette, but we as facilities managers also have to drive that etiquette down through the business. Subtle implementation, which I talked about. So we were going to roll out 100% sit-stand desks. As everybody knows, it was a nice to have for years where people always demanded a sit-stand desk. They were never used. When I was in Google, we had 50% sit-stand desks. People used to fight over them. People used to subtly move them to their area overnight. We had 100% sit-stand desk when we were on Facebook. And again, I'd say 20% usage was there as well. Not everybody wanted to use it. But when Paddy powered Betfair, we wanted to give people the option to use it. So we kind of subtly introduced sit-stand desks in certain areas to teams that were a bit more mobile. They had a standard desk setup, one screen, one laptop. Again, quiet pods, nobody had that quiet space where they wanted to go to kind of get away from their desk, to work on reports, to take phone calls. People were booking meeting rooms when they didn't really need a meeting room. They just needed a quiet space. So we subtly introduced quiet pods. And really, we looked at our breakout spaces across the building as how we can improve them to benefit the business. We're very fortunate at the time, and we're still very fortunate to partner with a furniture company that really understood our vision. And we came to them with the idea. They would come back to us with different innovations and changes. Paul Edwards from Stavern is actually here today. So we've been very fortunate that they've worked closely and they've understood our vision over time. And ultimately, when we do go 100% agile, they'll have been a big part of that experience. Again, we hear this term neighborhoods. Before, it was just linear desk layouts. Finance sat in the corner. IT was up the other end. Nobody wanted to move across the building. They stayed in their own area. They might meet by chance. The way the kind of walkways were laid out, you had one direction to go when you needed to get to the other place. So we looked at changing that. We wanted to introduce, as mentioned earlier, serendipitous collisions where you can meet at the coffee station, you can go to a breakout space and you might get chatting to somebody else there as well. So that was kind of the subtle implementation that we brought in back in August 2018. Again, this was for about 200 people that had the ability to work agile. A lot of teams came to us and said they can't work agile, they have this desk set up, they have this screen, this is the way they've had it for 7 or 8 years. So we had the ultimate challenge of working with those teams and engaging with them and understanding what their needs were and what we can do to help that as well. So this was phase 1, so moving from the dark ages to the subtle implementation. Again, we introduced sit-stand desks in certain areas, so people that were maybe over this side could gravitate over there and move across the workplace. They could get chatting to another team, collaborate with other colleagues. We also introduced quiet pods or meeting booths where people that didn't need to book a meeting room could sit at these pods. They could catch up with colleagues, maybe go through a report and not occupy a meeting room for a couple of hours, which could be used for something else. Quiet pods, again, I mentioned, was a way of getting away from your desk. Just find a quiet space to work on something that you've been kind of putting off for a long time. And I suppose the biggest thing we introduced was lockers. For the guy that had his 50 figurines, he was kind of a pushback on the lockers. Again, goes back to the Irish thing of ownership, and this is my desk, and that's the way it has to be. We removed pedestals. Again, we provided lockers that suited people's needs, size. Again, we really wanted people just to bring the bare essentials to work. I come to work every day mainly with my laptop and my backpack, and that's about it. I move around the same. I don't have, I guess, a frame, shoes, a change of clothes for the week ahead. They're not all lying at my workspace. And we found that even walking around the space, there was such a build-up of clutter. So we had to continuously engage with teams and do spring cleans, show them how to use the lockers, kind of subtle hints that they needed to clear their desk at the end of the day. I suppose part of this was helped by a clean desk policy, and again, walking around the space, you could pick any kind of document up out of any desk. People were very open about what they left lying around, which created more issues with GDPR and data protection. So the lockers have been one of the more difficult introductions, and both from a workspace point of view, I'd say for the first 2 weeks, everybody forgot their codes, people's lockers wasn't set for them, so we had to spend a lot of time supporting those individuals. But since then, and for those specific teams, it has worked really well. Nobody's come looking for a pedestal. People have started to kind of clean up their own space in the evening time. They're not leaving mugs around, plates around. They're not leaving 5 pairs of shoes under the desk. So it really has changed the mindset and culture since making these subtle introductions. Again, we didn't roll it out across the business straight away. We gave it time. We engaged on a slow basis with different teams. Again, the early adoption, so multiple team workshops. We met with different stakeholders, different management. We sat down. We had to start, I guess, at the very start and show them what Agile was. We talked and went out to other companies and businesses as to what Agile was for them. We went to Sky. We looked at consultancy firms that worked Agile. So we took all this information and learning and we brought it back to the business, and really to show them that this is how Agile works, this is how it needs to be implemented, how it can benefit your team by taking away 8 desks and maybe putting something else in that space that can be used as a collaboration space or something else that could benefit their team. Agile had to be delivered as something that was flexible, that could be shown that's advantageous to your team. And really, it's been about continuous communication about what it is, how to run it as well. For us and my team operationally, we had to make a lot of changes. People, and again, probably going back to the Irish thing, nobody wanted somebody else sitting in their seat the next day. People weren't tidying up at the end of the day. We had to work with our cleaning team as well to do kind of more regular cleanups around the office. We left out wipes in different pods so people could clean up their desk at the end of the day. That has been one of the biggest challenges, is the cleaning side of it. But really, again, it goes back to a culture change. If it benefited from the start, people will have buy-in. Management buy-in, really, we could roll out 100% Agile working tomorrow without engaging with the business, and we'll fall flat on our face because management won't buy in. We really needed their support in kind of delivering the model down through their teams, and we still do it today. And when we actually go 100% Agile, those stakeholders from Exco are going to be the people that are going to support us and make their teams understand why Agile flexible working will benefit their teams and their environments. And again, as I said, adjusting workspace operations and getting regular feedback from staff. Like from the first couple of weeks when we did the small Agile projects, we walked across the floor, we kind of watched how people were using the space, were they working differently. We got feedback from teams, and all of that feedback was positive. People found getting away from their desk to a quiet pod made them more productive. Even getting the opportunity to sit beside somebody they never met before, or a colleague that's not so much outgoing, they're a bit of an introvert, but getting to know them, what they do in their roles, and just having an overall collaboration throughout the business. Challenges. Again, we probably the IT side of things, Paddy Power, when I joined the CEO, his vision was to be the next tech business in Ireland and the UK and Europe, which was quite a mean feat. IT, when we moved in, had some staff had HP laptops, some people had Dell laptops, some docking stations from probably 20 years ago, some brand new. So Agile wasn't a possibility because you were going to come in the morning, go to a desk, the docking station didn't suit your laptop. Again, it didn't have the right charging lead. The screen setup wasn't correct for you as well. So we had to work very closely with IT. And IT, they seen probably the whole Agile model at the start as a hindrance to them or as a disruption to their norm. So with that, we've rolled out universal docking stations across the business. So people can sit where they want, their laptop will suit it, and we haven't got this issue that people have to go to certain desks. When we first introduced it, we didn't have the technology in place, so we had 50 laptop chargers over this side that suited one laptop and 50 the other side. It wasn't really agile. It was flexible to an extent, but really the IT cooperation was the big support in getting agile over the line for us. I talked earlier about people wanting to sit in the same seat. Let's call it squatter rights. Some lady still comes in every day. She sits in that seat. It's her seat. She has a nice view off the Dublin Mountains. She's not going to move, but at the moment we have enough desks to kind of suit those type of people. But as we slowly remove those desks, we are going to have that challenge, I suppose, of people having to move around the space, sit somewhere different, use a different desk space, whether it's a sit-stand desk or a working pod or a meeting pod. But I think once they move away from the desk and see there is a different way of working and it actually benefits them, they're more productive, they really will see the advantage of it. Again, the challenges we had were pressure on workspace services. So we had to have our cleaning teams to have more rigorous cleaning schedules around the workspace and floors. Again, locker support in the morning, cleaning up after people, if people left just kind of rubbish lying around desks and floors. We just had to have our front of house team, our cleaning teams really to buy into that and to support that on an ongoing basis. The clean desk policy as well, and still to this day is probably one of our biggest challenges, that people still leave their documentation lying around. We've given them the lockers. We've done multiple communications. We leave communications at desks as to how a clean desk policy works. Again, we've been working closely with our data security team to really drive home the importance of a clean desk policy, not to leave information lying around, not to print information unless you don't really need it, and obviously shredded bin should always be used across the site. So I call this, I suppose, section the Agile Takeover. Our current office space is 119,000 square feet, and our challenge is we're going down to 54,000 square feet. So this is a temporary space that we're moving into, and this is for the duration of the project. When we come back after the project, we are moving into a space that is going to be approximately 165,000 square feet. But with that, we're not going to add any additional desks at the end of the project. We're going to add extra ways of working. We're adding a gym, extra catering facilities, really just facilities that focus on giving people and teams different way of working and not just your linear kind of stacked desk layout. Again, we're going from 1,300 desks to 860. We're eliminating Exco meeting rooms, assigned meeting rooms. Exco are going to sit out with their teams. There's no knock on the door policy anymore. Removal of on-floor storage, 100% locker rollout, and 100% agile working. Process of elimination. So you're probably saying, how are you going to go from 119,000 square feet into 54,000 square feet? So this was done by utilization studies. So we looked at different teams. We carried out utilization studies over a 2-week period. We looked at different analysis such as access control. So this is really where we were at. 42% was our average utilization of our current space. So, and for me, I saw that on a regular day. When you walked around, it felt like there was nobody in the space. There was too many desks. There was no real culture or atmosphere. It didn't really give me this feeling of this is where I want to work or this is a hive of activity. So again, this is driven by, we had to go down to obviously a smaller space for the duration of the project, but also we didn't actually need the space that we had. So there's a margin rate of 20%. Again, the business is still quite scared that we're not going to meet that margin or we're going to be way above it. But we will have 860 desks in our temporary space, so moving from 1,300. We're quite confident at this point that we're not going to go near the 860 occupancy on a daily rate. There will be certain days throughout the year where you will have more people in the business, but you can't design an office space for that one day of the year. If we had 30 betting shops and they weren't doing any business, you're not going to keep them open, you're going to close them. So we have to look at our own workspaces that way as well. So again, this isn't something you do once and then walk away from it. This is something you need to do on a regular basis, to do constant utilization studies, to see how the business is changing, how teams kind of demand is changing, how their way of working is changing. Creating an agile culture, this is the most difficult part, and I'll go back to communication. It has to be regular engagement, talking to teams, learning how they use their space on a daily basis, and what else they need really in that space to enable them. Like, we had a space with 600 TVs. Nobody actually asked for 5 or 6 years, why do you need that many TVs? Because the business didn't. Nobody asked the question. We moved down to 250 TVs, and it's obviously made a lot of cost savings for us as a business and a team, but it's opened up other opportunities to use the space better as well. The space looks less cluttered. Again, I said, utilize the space which benefits the end user. And really, the operational support is a big thing. You can't roll it out, walk away, and expect people to manage the space themselves. We have to show them how to use the space. You have to train them how to use the space, and regular encouragement to kind of adopt the Agile model. And again, I mentioned about utilization, constantly measure your occupancy across different teams and get feedback on an ongoing basis. Questions? Queries? Yep.
Has the business basically eliminated the need for hard copies of anything, or is it just a very efficient offset?
This is one of our other challenges as well. Down in our basement, there is about 20 years worth of documentation that's about to be thrown out, which is a big GDPR issue. There's stuff down there that nobody wants to see. I certainly didn't want to see it when I opened it up. So this isn't just driven by us as a team. We're working with IT security to move towards digital storage, and really for teams to take ownership of their own document storage. We have an availability of on-site storage, but again, it goes back to having a document retention policy. So whether it's for tax purposes, whether it's for HR reasons, so you really need to drive that policy home for teams to manage their own storage. Obviously, we can facilitate it, but we can't just hold on to multiple records for year on end, which has been the case across the business. So really, again, it's another change of culture and mindset for people to adopt that also.
Any other questions for Stephen?
Yeah.
So the question is, in case people can't hear at the back, how do you overcome the drive for teams who say, well, we have to sit together in an agile environment?
I suppose we ask them why, the reasons why, or what can we do differently in the space that can enable you to move apart or spend spend time in different places of the floor. A lot of people will always come back and say, oh, I need to sit beside this person, but they might not engage with them throughout the day. So we've kind of spoken to teams, sat down with them. Some of them might say, we need this screen or we need this whiteboard. That's fine, we can give you that, but we can give you it in another space as well. So it means they don't always constantly have to be in that one place. So again, it goes back to engagement with these individuals and understanding why they work the way they do, but also trying to change their mindset on how they could work differently that can both benefit them and also us as a team. Yeah, we have. That has been one of our biggest challenges, is moving away from that assigned meeting room. Going back to the utilization, some of the meeting rooms that Exco had were utilized an average of 5%. They were never in that room, they were away somewhere else, they were traveling. So we had a focus on moving them back out to the team, but we also were very careful on where they were actually placed on that bench or the opportunity. Again, it was agile within their own team, but Exco are probably the one team, or our C-level staff are the ones that tend not to move away as much, but we have facilitated them by giving them kind of privacy screens or giving them maybe some nice plants around their desk area that can give that bit more privacy.
Any other questions for Stephen?
In terms of resistance to Agile, did you find that came primarily from function-based rather than personality-based?
Yeah, so for an example is our risk and trading team. So if you walk to the floor, they'll have 6 screens and it looks quite old school. They were the biggest kind of blocker to us. They said, this is the way we need to work because of our function. I need these 6 screens. These 6 screens are my setup every day. We've moved a lot of those people to one screen, and hopefully when we move back into the new space, everybody be on one screen. It's really understanding why they have those 6 screens. Can they be set up in a way on one screen? The apps can everything be aligned to suit their needs? But again, we did have individual functions that just kind of push back, but we just needed to spend a bit more time with them and show them the benefits, but also give them examples of other businesses like that has their teams to show them how it's worked for them.
I think I've been really impressed with the amount of communication you did throughout these projects.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can ever communicate enough, but it was really impressive, and it seems that's the way you've managed to kind of break down some of these quite obvious barriers.
Yeah, for me in FM, any big issues or failures in the past have always been around communication, when you don't actually engage with people and talk to them and let them know you're going to do something. Like, if we're going to go 100% agile tomorrow and don't tell anybody, it's just going to be hell on earth. I'm going to run out the door and probably not come back because my job will already be gone. Yeah. But yeah, communication for us has been key, and we've created our own kind of project team around communication. We've created a schedule around that. Leading up to the project, we've had poster campaigns, we've had workshops, and just different types of ways of engaging staff. Sometimes posters don't always work. People don't always read the long email as well, so you have to be quite smart about how you do that.